I decided to do my personal experience speech on my experience when I was pregnant. In March of 2010, I found out I was pregnant and I was 8 weeks along. My boyfriend at the time went to University of Iowa where he worked part-time and he was in the National Guard. I was a waitress part-time and a part-time CNA, and I was going to school full-time for nursing. At the time, I was scared, nervous, as any 22-year-old would be. I was the one that was never having kids. I was going to pursue my career, and I wanted to do traveling nursing. The first person I called was my mom. Of course, I was crying, and she told me everything was going to be okay. I finally got to see my daughter on the screen in May. She was growing normally. The first 3 months, it was about 3 months, she was growing like she was supposed to. She was right on track. I started getting sick around the 4th month. I was vomiting in the morning, all hours of the day, and I started gaining a lot of weight and fluid. I was swollen. When I was 28 weeks along, I went for my 30-week checkup, and they told me that I was measuring under, and I had protein in my urine, which isn't normal for pregnant women or anybody. They immediately sent me to the University of Iowa and hooked me up to monitors and did the baby's profile. My boyfriend at the time was deployed to Afghanistan, and that made everything more scary for me. I had my daughter October 12th, 2010. She was 28 weeks gestation. Her due date was actually December 22nd, and she weighed 1 pound 9 ounces and was 12.5 inches long. She was the length of a toothbrush. Her diaper was the size of a panty liner. If you guys don't know what that is, they're small compared to a normal newborn's diaper size. She was on 25% oxygen for the first about week. I didn't get a hold of her until 2 weeks into my hospital stay. She was very tiny, and she was in an incubator, and which kept her warm because she couldn't maintain her own body heat. Rayleigh stayed in the NICU for 51 days, and the NICU, if anybody doesn't know what that is, it's the Neonatal Intensive Care Unit in Iowa City. They're amazing. They had different bays. The most critical started out in Bay 1, and then they gradually moved up to Bay 5. 51 days for a 1 pound 9 ounce baby. It is very good. A lot of the babies stay longer than what is expected, but my daughter weaned off the oxygen 2 weeks after she was born, and they don't see that very often, especially with their premature lungs and their development. Usually the babies that are premature, they have complications. My daughter, she didn't have very many complications. She had low potassium, and they gave her medications for that. She started out on tube feedings, which was gravity feedings, and I would go in there and I would, anytime I wanted to, at any time of the night. She was in there for Thanksgiving, and 2 weeks later she was out. She gained, I think she weighed 5 pounds 1 ounces when we were sent home. She wasn't sent home on any oxygen or breathing tubes or anything. We did have a home health nurse for the first 2 weeks. My boyfriend, I guess he was my husband at the time, we got married, and in between him going to Iraq and finding out I was pregnant, the Red Cross actually got him back, and overnight. It was like 6 hours, and he was there for the delivery. I had an emergency C-section, I was hooked up to all these kinds of medications. I could pump my own pain medications, and I was on magnesium sulfate. And if you guys don't know what that is, it makes you really sick and it makes you feel really heavy, and it's to prevent you from having seizures, because preeclampsia is what I was diagnosed with, which is you fill up with fluid. It's very dangerous. It's a lot of complications. I didn't have any complications other than I gained a lot of weight, and it was a lot of water weight. I was in and out of the doctors for checkups. I got to hold my daughter when she was about 2 weeks old, and I remember the first feeling when I went into her room. I just broke down and cried. It was very scary, and to see my daughter hooked up to all them tubes. And she finally came home, and she's doing great, and she's 5 years old now, no complications. She's just tiny. She's about 28 pounds, and she's 5, and she's very smart, no learning development issues. She's average 5-year-old. I have a picture. This is her 2 days after she was born. This doesn't do it justice, but she's very tiny. Thank you for listening to my speech.